before we start talking. And copy link, do that. Okay, guys, so I am in my kitchen, hanging out. I see one person has joined the chat, that's good. If you're wondering why I did an AI thumbnail for this, that is what Velsartha would have looked like if they had actually cast the character as a man, as should have been. All right. You look at him, you look at ugh, the chick that's playing her, and it's pretty obvious that, in my opinion, that it wasn't cast because it was a good idea. It was cast to fuck you to everybody. So there's that. But yeah, that would be Velsartha if Velsartha had been cast like she should have been. He instead of a she. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about the issues that we've discovered about the CIA and StarWarsWeb.net. Now, there are tons and tons of web pages out there in fan circles that are for Star Wars, right? We can't, like whatever. And I'll give you a little history of the background. Back during the War on Terror, now go and watch the videos. So I'm just gonna kind of repeat what I said there. The CIA and other intelligence agencies discovered that Al Qaeda was using teenager chat rooms to talk. My opinion is if you want to keep things away from intelligence agencies, you got to go silent. You got to do you have to go old school. You can't get on the internet because someone's going to see what you're doing and then you're going to get in trouble. And they stopped a lot of attacks because of it. They figured it out. And then it turns out that the CIA, in order to keep up with their assets in Iran, and I don't know who you are, Catherine. So, and I don't know who Chris is. So, and I get a lot of trolls here. So if that's what you are, then run along. Okay. Anyway, in order to keep up with the with their assets in Iran and other places in China and maybe Russia. All right. They created Star Wars Web.net. And it looked just like any other fan website, but they used it to they used it as a way to communicate with their assets. Well, it looks like a good idea on paper, right? It looks like, it's a good idea on paper. It's not. It ended up not, because the Iranians figured it out. And a lot of the CIA's assets were caught and killed. They were eliminated. And and it happened in China too. And what I find interesting is that it's just coming out now. Now, this was during the first Obama administration that they come up with this. And I want to talk about it because a lot of people have an interesting idea that somehow the Central Intelligence Agency and others like the Mossad control everything. I don't really, I mean, maybe Mossad does. They're a little more competent. But after having dated a long time ago when I was first in DC, a CIA guy, and my friend dated a guy that taught weapons at the farm in Virginia, which is what they call where they train operatives. They call it the farm. He could have played in a trap. He could have. I mean, they were competent. They knew what they were doing. But the CIA is an inverted pyramid. So you got a bunch of guys running around collecting human intelligence, aka, excuse me, what you call human, H-U-M-I-N-T, human. But there's so few of them, and everything goes up like that, and everything goes like that. And that's not the way you do an intelligence agency. It's very it's an incompetent way of doing things. During the Clinton administration, they really valued digital and computer generated stuff that they could hear, that kind of intelligence that was collected, bugging phones, listening to radio transmissions, whatever. I mean, I'll tell you a story. You know, the daily, the book, the daily briefing that the CIA director takes from Langley to the White House to show the president every day? You know what that is? Newspaper clippings from around the world. And a lot of intelligence that they develop comes from news stories from around the world. Now, I understand that because I've used that kind of thing before. I mean, when you look at, here's how you do it. The Sacramento Bee puts out a story that, Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall are selling their house for it was $22 million, by the way. That was, I believe, the very first price they wanted to put on it. Then it went to 20, then it went to 18, then it went to 14, then it went to 12, and they sold it. All right, so they didn't get anything for it. I looked at that, and other people looked at that and said, you know, why do they need the money? All right, and they have another place, which I found it. I'm not gonna tell you where it is, but I know where they live. You look at that and you go, why would they do that? And you start putting two together. Is she leaving? Is she getting ready to leave? Why does she need the money? Now, people like that buy and sell houses all the time. There's so much, they're icky rich. It's gross. So really, on the face of it, you're kind of like, but doubled with all the rumors about her leaving and about the state of Lucasfilm and everything from 2 years ago with what we call the Nazgul, the Witch King of Burbank, showing up, her getting kicked off the Lucasfilm interwebs so people could go through her email. You start thinking maybe this has something to do with her leaving. You start developing a story and an idea around that. Then we find out she and her husband sell a very priceless, very valuable, socially, art with like a social conscience, right? All these paintings and things, all these, hey Connor, how you doing? All these weird things going on. These paintings, I did a video on it. If you want to scroll back to the thing, you'll see it. There was only one that I liked. It was from turn of the century, it's from the 1920s, and it was called The Jazz Musicians, or it was 1930, I think it came out. And I liked that. I mean, excuse me. I wish I had I wish I had a sneeze button. um, but I've got, I think, a sinus infection. I'm not sure. Um, but other than that, everything, thank you. Um, everything that they had wasn't stuff I would want in my house. But they sold it. And there were artists in there that were extremely famous people that I studied in college. So I'm looking at this going, why would they sell this art collection? It's usually when people die, the art collection either gets sold off in total to a museum, or the the kids keep it and keep it as a legacy of their parents or whatever. It's a legacy. They sold it. Why? See, that's how you build. Yeah, you really. I mean, that artwork tells you who they think, who they believe themselves to be. Ms. Guggenheim, whose name I can't remember, actually was quoted in one of the articles saying that when she met them, they like to call themselves socially responsible filmmakers. And we can see by what Kathleen did to Star Wars how socially responsible they really are. All right? But they got rid of this thing, and it's like, it was a shock to me. Like, why? So it's another clue. And then when Matt Bellany came out and said, I've heard from 3 different sources at Lucasfilm that Kennedy's out within a few months. That was in February. We are in May. We're in the middle of, I guess what you'd say, the third quarter, because the second quarter is already over. All right. And we just had the earnings call. And Disney, I haven't looked at the stock market today, but Disney's made up some money that it lost previously. They were up over 10,000, I think, or up over $110 a share. And part of it is they're actually doing quite well as far as earnings goes. And now look at Lilo and Stitch, the live action. It's blowing the doors off the box office, as is Mission Impossible. I think I might do a video about Tom Cruise, not my favorite actor, but when a guy goes out of his way to pen a thank you note to the fans for showing up, I want you to know that that is what a movie star does. It is not Pedro Pascal, who is not a refugee by any means. His dad was a psychologist. His dad was a fertility doctor. His mom is a psychiatrist. His brother's a tranny. And these are things, transsexualism, homosexuality, are things rich people with nothing better to do get involved in. Okay, if you ever want to know anything about rich people, get ready to have your ears melt off, because they can be very strange. And they get themselves into really weird shit. But back to the conspiracies. So you can develop a good, broad-based theory of what could be coming by news articles, right? And then an asset walks in off the street and goes to the CIA guy in the embassy to tell him, I heard this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. The guy gets money, or she gets her money and leaves. That's how they do it. Collecting, like, if you ever want to watch an interesting guy, look up Sean Ryan. He's a retired Navy SEAL and he was a CIA agent, and he's seen some shit, man. And he went out and did the deed, right? he got himself involved in all kinds of crazy shit. But that's what guys like that have to do. Now, when I'm talking about a, yeah, whatever the call, Connor is absolutely right. Connor, you're a newbie. I have never seen you before, but welcome. All right. Just look at this Star Wars webpage, StarWarsWeb.net. All right, they got the idea from Al Qaeda. It didn't last very long. I think they started it like what in the late like 2010, 2012, and it was over before they knew it because the Iranian intelligence agency figured it out, rolled up all the assets, and then killed them all. And the Chinese did the same thing. So I kind of look at it and go, what are the mistakes? Why are they so incompetent? Why can't they figure these things out? And it's because it's an inverted pyramid. The people down at the bottom who would know kind of like how to do things and phrase things so it wouldn't be obvious are down here. The people creating the website are up here. And then the people on top, they're disconnected from the whole process, right? So, what I want to talk about is, are intelligence agencies involved in creating pop culture? And I'm going to say, once a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there was an intelligence agency called the KGB, who definitely were involved in trying to create and get involved in culture by infiltrating Hollywood. The greatest form of propaganda is film. I mean, the Germany's Triumph of the Will, one of the greatest propaganda films of all time. The Battleship Potemkin, which is a Soviet silent movie from the 20s. God knows, that movie that came out 2018 about a lake battle in China made like, I think, $3 billion for the Chinese. That was a propaganda movie, but everybody had to go to it. Okay, it wasn't like, I don't really feel like going to see that. Let's go see When Harry Met Sally Part 2. Something like that, okay? So you're going, of course they would get involved, and I'm going to defend the people who named names to Congress in the 50s about communists in Hollywood. They were there. There's a story out there that the KGB actually wanted to kill John Wayne. True story. That's what I heard. And the FBI came and said, hey, Duke, better watch your back. So Wayne and his buddies put two and two together, figured out who it was, who they had sent, and staged a mock execution on a beach in California. Never bothered him again. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was Dalton Trumbo, huge commie. Arthur Miller, Marilyn Monroe's last husband, huge fucking commie. Unrepentant, right? They weren't there because they wanted to be writers. They were there because they wanted to indoctrinate people. Go forward 50 years, 2012. What is the biggest franchise and biggest movie series of all times? Star Wars. Disney wants to buy Star Wars to make more money. That's what Yakima Canute, yep, great. Yakima Canute was a stuntman who taught John Wayne how to ride. And the saunter that John Wayne had, it was taught to him by Jack Ford, the director John Ford, Peppy Ford, who learned it from Wyatt Earp. And when you see The Mandalorian and Brendan Wayne is in the costume, he's walking the same way Grandpops did, who was taught by Jack Ford, who was taught by Wyatt fucking Earp. Isn't that cool? That's a little thing. Anyway, so Disney gets Lucasfilm. They want to make money. They don't. They have a specific time period. And they have dates. This movie comes out in December of 2015. This one comes out in December of 2017. This one comes out in December of 2018. And there's no plan. Weak link one. And I did a video on George Lucas, and it was a download, an upload from this week. Go back and watch it. What's interesting is that George would say that Hollywood executives are stupid, and they are. You know, and I'm not taking anything away from Bob Iger, or even at the time his number two guy, Alan Horn. What I am saying is that they didn't realize what they had. And had they taken their time, like work to develop the Indiana Jones movie, let Kennedy go off on her chariot with a successful Indiana Jones movie, get her the hell out of there, and get somebody like Jon Favreau to take her place, and then do Star Wars, right? But they wanted Star Wars like that. No, he's not stupid. Bob Iger is one of those guys who has survived 50 years at ABC and then Disney. He's got great instincts. He just follows trends. Business people like him follow trends, and woke was a trend, right? Woke is a trend. Woke is dead now. We spent 2016 to 2024 suffering under the throes of this insanity. And after the wonderful, beautiful, magnificent election of Donald Trump, woke is not anything to be concerned with anymore, and it never was. It didn't earn them any money. It pissed their fan base off. I mean, when you take The Force Awakens and you turn Han Solo into a drunk deadbeat dad who gets butchered by his ugly piece of shit, mule-faced son, Leia into a haggard old head, and you bring this no-name girl who ends up being a Palpatine in, and then the show's all about her. It's supposed to be the Skywalker saga, but she's not really a Skywalker, even though we thought at the time she was, and that would have been the wise choice. All of that was woke, and it came out before Ghostbusters 2016, which was the first moment of female Ghostbusters, cool. But it was bad. Why? Because it was woke. Okay. I mean, Dan Aykroyd himself said that Paul Feig would never be allowed on the Sony lot again after that. Because Aykroyd told him, you do this and you do this, but you don't do this with Ghostbusters. And Feig ignored everything. Anyway, so you've got this woke shit going on. And it was a trend, so Iger said, fine. And you had Reimagine Tomorrow at Disney, and all this gay shit going along, and people running around. Michael Eisner wasn't part of woke. He left in like 2005. So there was no woke in 2005. and everything was, you know, uh, fine for the LGBTQ anti-white racist brigade that had infested Disney. And Michael Eisner didn't inherit woke. What are you talking about? Michael Eisner left in 2005, which incidentally was the year Revenge of the Sith came out, and Iger allowed it to thrive because he thought it made him look good to his Hollywood buddies, right? Look, none of those people are woke. None of those people are woke. And they say stuff to look cool. That's it. That's the only reason why they do. And they didn't bring back Eisner. That was, what are you talking about? The guy that came in after when Bob Iger stepped back, and he really didn't. He never really left Disney. That was Bob Chapek that came in, and he got fired. And then Iger came back. Not Michael Eisner's been gone since 2005. Okay, don't look it up yourself. Anyway, what the hell are you talking about? Anyway, woke is dead. I mean, MIT is getting rid of it. Disney itself closed down Reimagine Tomorrow. They've started to step back from this. Now, there may be woke things and still in the firing line, in the hole, but it's dying. Now, here's what you gotta look at though. There are states like California with tax incentives of $20 million if you film a movie or a streaming show or a linear TV show, and you hire this many black actors, this many Hispanic actors, overtly gay actors who play gay characters, and make sure it's part of the plot, etc. You will get a $20 million tax incentive. The British government does this too. Okay. And it's one of those things where, no, he didn't. You know what? I'm this close to bouncing you off here, XNT. Michael Eisner never came back after 2005. And I don't know what you're talking about, but I've had this channel since 2017. All right. And the only time I've ever talked about Michael Eisner was when he'd be asked questions about what was going on at his old company, aka the Walt Disney Corporation. So I don't know, maybe somebody wants to talk to him about this, Jonathan, but I'm this close. This close. So why the woke? Well, is it a CIA operation? No. Let's talk about the Acolyte. There was an actor and trans activist in England who did a lot of the so basically propaganda for the lockdown and the clot shot, and his name popped up as being someone who is going to be in the Acolyte. Now, you got to remember, who thought of the Acolyte? Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, who's a self-proclaimed Star Wars fan, even though you look and see what she did and you're like, really? Really? I didn't buy it, wasn't going to buy it. She's the showrunner for The Acolyte, and we knew it was going to be woke. there are plenty of videos of her bashing George Lucas, especially after the prequels. I've got interviews with her bashing the prequels and George. So we knew it was going to be her rendition of what she thinks would make Star Wars great. It was the lowest rated audience score TV show for Star Wars ever. Jon Favreau himself said, "This is the worst fan film I have ever seen. It's garbage. Garbage." Okay, that's a true story. And it seems to be that when this tranny, I can't remember his name, but we're not going to use his chosen gender because he's a guy. He's a mentally unstable, fucked in the head guy. Was supposed to be in The Acolyte, and this guy was also apparently an MI6 or MI5 operative. Now, the name did not show up in the IMDb database for The Acolyte casting, and he wasn't in the show. But the fact of the matter is that there was a chance that somebody who was a propaganda tool of MI6, which is the British Secret Service, James Bond, was going to be at least part of the show. And that is worrisome, in my opinion. Why is it worrisome? It's worrisome because I think it is overreach. It's governmental. No, it's not listed. I looked for it. The guy was not in it. He didn't show up at all, and it was a woke show anyway. Lesbian witches, like anybody really needed that. And no white men in it at all, because of course, well, Leslie should know because she worked for one of the worst people in the world, and that would be Harvey Weinstein. The problem, or the thing that we have to think about is, was MI6 really involved? Well, you could look at it. The fact is this: DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, discovered the BBC got money from USAID. Did any of that money go to The Acolyte? Where did the money come from? Because the Karen McCarthy lawsuit, we'll go back to that. Now they're alleging there was never an Acolyte show when they offered her, Karen McCarthy, the job as the line producer. And she had gone to England to look for a house. Okay, so you're kind of going, okay, and then they basically, I think, ghosted her, and then when she finally got them to admit it, they told her they didn't need her. So they lied about everything and wouldn't pay her the money she deserved, and she lost out on actually being the showrunner for a very successful Apple Plus series, which is called Sugar, which stars Colin Farrell. All right. Was it though? I mean, I could see it being something like that. But to me, and the reason why I could see that is, where'd the money come from? And why were they so worried about McCarthy finding out where the money was coming from? These are questions that need to be answered. And why won't they just give McCarthy her settlement and go on their merry way? Would it be, look, Paying her off is a imminence of wrongdoing, right? But you got to do it, right? So we got that going on. So I kind of look at the acolyte going, maybe it was, but since we don't know where exactly how the money came from, and now we've got, Kennedy selling a priceless art collection. Does she owe someone money? Did she get backers that were like, where is it? All right. Yeah, we don't know. This is why you want to know what's going on. And I think that I think the fans deserve to know. And I think Karen McCarthy deserves to know. But as far as like, is the CIA involved in things like The Last Jedi? No. Tell you what was going on there. Back in the day, I looked at the IMDb page. And what was this? Give me the name that you got. Because if you're saying Jodie Turner-Smith, she's a mine. She is a she. All right. All right. She's the black woman that played the mom. Yep, exactly right, Stacy. Exactly right. Thank you. I can't think of the guy's name, but it looks to me like Kennedy owes somebody money for something. It could be as simple as owing Disney money for skimming off the top of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which was way underwater as far as budget goes. I mean, that movie lost, I think, more than Soylo, a Soy War Story. And it was an embarrassment. And, the woman, there's no way she could ever be embarrassed by anything. I mean, anyway. But this is what I think is going on. After World War II, a bunch of intelligentsia in Germany gathered in Frankfurt, Germany, and decided that the only way they could really change Western culture to what they wanted it to be, they would have to indoctrinate and basically undermine the heroic ideal that Western culture has. Oh man, I can't even think of the word now. Destroying the hero. Discombobulating the hero. And when you look at George and what he was doing in 1977, he looked around and saw Kojak, not the dog back there who's lying there staring at me, and he looked around and saw the man with no name, Dirty Harry, and said, little boys need heroes, real heroes, all right, like he grew up with, Flash Gordon, etc. And he created Luke Skywalker. He created Han Solo. He created Leia, probably the most heroic female character in film history. He created Anakin Skywalker. And what you see with the sequel trilogy is this: the deconstruction of everything George created. Thanks, Stacy. And this is a philosophy that I heard in college. I remember it very well, and looking at my professor going, that's stupid. I mean, that's just, but back then we were allowed to think critically. That's what they wanted us to do. And kids that go to Harvard, whatever big university now, you're not allowed to think critically. You're indoctrinated, right? And the Frankfurt philosophy, the Frankfurt School philosophy, which was exposed by Andrew Breitbart before he died, deconstruct Western culture by deconstructing their heroes, which is exactly what J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, because she's a raving, crazy, bat shit bonkers, fourth wave feminist, and Rian Johnson set out to do. If you look at what they did to Han Solo, what they did to Leia, what they did to the values that George had instilled in the universe that he created, was, he would say anybody who goes out of their way to destroy culture is a barbarian. Well, guess what Kathleen Kennedy is? Guess what J.J. Abrams is? Guess what Rian Johnson is? They're barbarians. Kennedy surrounded herself with devotees of the Frankfurt School. Pablo Hidalgo ran away, his parents ran away from Chile when Pinochet was out taking people on helicopter tours. And he grew up a red diaper baby, came to the United States. And look, I remember, I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look this up and I'm going to try to get Baz, my guy, to talk about it. Or get the place where this was talked about. Pablo, not 2014, 2013, went on a podcast and was having a conversation in private before it started, telling the podcast host they were getting rid of the EU, they were going to consolidate the canon, and he said something about indoctrinating the kids. Now you understand where I'm getting the Frankfurt School shit, right? And this is after Andrew mysteriously died of a heart attack outside of a restaurant, Andrew Breitbart. And what we get from the publishing, which is where all the wokesters basically are, as far as Lucasfilm goes, is Frankfurt School bullshit, the undermining of the white male hero. We've got shitty stories about Han Solo. We got some comic book where Leia punches him. 5'2", weighs 80 pounds wet. Knocks a 6'1", 165-pound man out. Are you fucking kidding me? This is where they're at. And when you look at how they write Luke, how they write Han, even the new stuff that Marvel came out with, they're coming up with stuff that happened between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back right now in comic books. And you look at all this shit and you're going, this is Frankfurt School shit. This is who they are. And they've all been indoctrinated to think that way, right? And when we were in college, I wanted to be a singer, and then I got sick, and see that? Yeah, well, and I couldn't be a singer, and all of the things I wanted to do, like I wanted to be an actress. I should have just, learned how to film things and do that. But you're so disillusioned and so broken by this obstacle that showed up unexpectedly that you kind of just go, I'm done. So I got to be a history major. And after a while, I ended up working on Capitol. Worked in DC, and then I worked on for the House Majority Leader. And then I worked as presidential appointee, Schedule C, and then My husband asked me to marry him, and I was done, no more. But you gotta understand, while we were all trying to figure out what we were gonna do with our lives, these guys were not being trained as creatives. They were being trained as activists, disguised as creatives, to go into places like Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Star Trek, and purposely destroy the mythos, recreate it as leftist, activist, toxic, anti-Western culture bullshit. And that's exactly what they did. And that's, there you go. That's what you have with Pablo Hidalgo, with Matt Martin, with Kristen Hidalgo, the wife. There's a guy, he's one of the animators, who attacked Gina Carano after she was fired. And I would like to see him leave, right? I would like to see John just tell Dave, I think he's got to go. You know, I think that would be the thing to do. But that's what happened. I mean, look at Howard Kurtzman. All right, look at the garbage that they've churned out for Star Trek. Look at the way they destroyed the characters of Galadriel in the Lord of the Rings TV show. Right? I can't. I can see his face. He's an animator. John, I did a video about him. But, so when I think about conspiracy theories, I think about these kids being trained as activists, right? To go in to these places and undermine and change the story. I mean, after all, Pablo said in private at that podcast, we are going to indoctrinate the kids. And if he hears I said this, you did say that. You did say that. Don't fucking deny it. You did. Okay, so now I kind of want to change the subject. Pedro Pascal. So, and then I gotta go, because I gotta go and see the horse bring her in. I'm gonna finally give her wormer and give her extra food. Pedro Pascal spent a lot of time at the Cannes Film Festival. No, it wasn't Henry Gilroy. It wasn't. That definitely was not him. A lot of times bashing the United States and President Trump. He's about as tiresome as Robert De Niro has become, and Rosie O'Donnell. People on the left have a tendency, because he's Chilean, to believe he was a refugee. Then you look at the Wikipedia page. Then you look at what people are saying about his family. His mother was a psychiatrist. Dad is a fertility doctor. He spent time in Spain with grandma, flying back and forth between Santiago and Madrid or Barcelona or the Basque country. No, it was an animator, not a writer. He's got a brother who's transsexual. This is, when you look at people that have issues with alternate lifestyles, they usually come from very well-to-do families. As my dad liked to tell me, and it's something I put in some of the old fan fiction I wrote, rich people are very strange people. and they get themselves into very strange pastimes, right? I mean, and honestly, one of the few things Andor got right was it got the way Mon Mothma's husband lived. Eccentric, full of himself, not particularly mindful of what's going on around him, and very interested in his own, the things that he found pleasure in. Drinking, cheating on Mon, whatever. And transsexuality, along with homosexuality, is a curse of the wealthy. All right, I'm going to say that right there. Because the wealthy don't take time, because they're not raising their children, to give their kids any structure, any values, right? And when you look at where a lot of these people came from, they came from very elitist, entitled families. People who have to, like good, solid, middle-class families that make $100,000 a year, they don't have time for gay shit, right? So, you know, when you hear Pedro Pascal is this poor refugee, no, he's not. He's not. His family, they were friends with the socialist who took over from Augusto Pinochet, Allende. Right? I mean, and so when you hear about these things, don't be shocked. Or literally do not be shocked when they present themselves or are presented by their supporters as being something they never were to begin with. Why? Because making Pedro look like a poor refugee, I'm only here because my country, blah, blah. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, knock it off. All right. You know, to me, when I heard that he had a trans brother, I'm like, you grew up in a pretty damn elitist family, didn't you? All right. And because, again, it is a curse of the elites. And it's going to hurt the Mandalorian if he doesn't stop opening up his big fat yap. I mean, you know, agree with Rachel Zegler or not, had she kept her mouth shut, only talked about the movie when it came out, kept her mouth shut about her woke bullshit, and, you know, I live in a world where I think most actresses are stupid except for Carrie Fisher. Okay, I got that wrong. Okay, so Pedro was born after? He was born in 75. Interesting. So he, like Pablo, can cry on people's shoulders that Pinochet victimized them. Really interesting. But definitely hard left socialists, right? Very wealthy family, right? Pablo, I'm going to say his father is probably an Allende guy and fled Chile with his Canadian wife and his baby, right? That's what happened. All right. And they're not some poor family from Tijuana or, you know, somewhere in Oaxaca who want to take care of their kids. Neither of them, neither Pablo nor Pedro are that, right? Faux intellectual leftist Frankfurt School devotees. Exactly what they are. Anyway, I gotta go. Thanks, Jonathan, for correcting me on that. Now it kind of makes me happy every time. I mean, look, I think Augusto Pinochet was one of the greatest anti-communists that ever lived. So, bravo, Augusto. Anyway, I gotta rock. I gotta go take care of the horse, and you know, we'll something goes on today. You know, we haven't heard from Sparrow in almost 4 weeks now, which is getting kind of don't know what's going on. Anyway, see you guys around the galaxy.